The Bucks, Commanders, and Falcons are all 2-0. How does that impact our NFC landscape? We're stacking up the NFC with our power rankings today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. Hello. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100.
Joe, NFC Power Rankings today. This conference, for me, got turned on its head for the second consecutive week because it's the Wild Wild West. It's there's a Western division, which is probably the least compelling of the four divisions, ironically, for me to call it the Wild Wild West. But you got the NFC South with 3 2-0 teams in it. You got 3 undefeated teams in the NFC East. The NFC North is kind of going to be the Royal Rumble division, it feels like, from a competitiveness standpoint. So there's a lot of interesting storylines here.
I feel like the top 3 are the top 3. You can debate the order. But then maybe the next 10, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. So if you told me that you had realistically, how far down this list could I go? The 7th team in the 4 spot, I'd believe you.
Sure.
But then, like, you could get to like the 10th team and say you had them 6th or 5th, and I'd believe you there too.
So let's make some people happy and some people mad here.
We have not compared notes.
Never do.
We largely were chalk in the top tier and the bottom tier yesterday with the AFC. We were pretty chalk through the top 7 in the NFC last week, with the exception of who we had as the first overall team. We had them flip-flopped. And then we were in lockstep for like the bottom 4 teams. So I expect the same. I could tell you that my top team in the NFC last week was the Dallas Cowboys, and this week will remain to be the Dallas Cowboys.
They're finally coming through for you. I feel like you've been on Dallas for like 3 years, and this is kind of like, I think, the team you envisioned them being, and they are. So,
all we needed was Mike McCarthy to be the play call.
Yeah, you're just you've been a couple of years ahead on the Dallas stuff. I understand you keeping them at number 1, but I'm keeping my number 1 at number 1, which is the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know. I think you can really understand either team being in that spot. Both teams have been dominant. Both teams are playing unbelievable on defense. I think probably the Dallas has been better on defense. That's certainly a better, a reasonable take there. But I don't know, something about this 49ers offense and the way they run the football and the way that they get these weapons going. I just kind of really dig it. So I'm sticking with them at number 1.
Yeah, I think they are a coin toss right now, especially because, Brock Purdy's been what they hoped he would be. And with a little bit less intrigue there as far as what's that going to look like, that really helps their case and their resume. I have San Francisco at 2. You alluded to at the very top of the show that it's kind of a clear 3. I think we both agree the Philadelphia Eagles, defending NFC champions, 2-0, kind of herky-jerky at times, but taking care of business, obviously very physically talented. They check in at 3. A little worried about the injuries there. Did you see the stat last year that, like, Philly never had a game in which they had lost, like, 2 scheduled starters, like, all year last year?
That's helpful. That's helpful in going to the Super Bowl, right?
Right, yeah. Well, it was week 2, and they'd already, like, surpassed the number of starters that were out for a game.
Yeah, I think Philly's 3. Like, that's not no disrespect. I don't know that they're right now, at least, playing like the 49ers and Cowboys. I really appreciated how they were able to kind of get out of a rut, it felt like, against Minnesota, leaning into that run game and then just being able to dominate with that offensive line and DeAndre Swift going through and having 175 yards, the most for an Eagles back since 2013. It's nice to see that, but at the same time, I'm not sure their pass coverage is looking strong at all. At all, right? I'm concerned about it. I'm sure James Bradbury being injured hurts. That doesn't help, but I don't know. There's a little bit more chinks in the armor with Philly than the top two teams. And also like a low-key thing, Eagles special teams isn't looking that good to me. I know that Jake Elliott's a good kicker, but like Stipros is a disaster at punter. The return situation's been dicey for a while. And when you're talking about separating top teams, you're looking for X factors. And I don't love the way Philly plays special teams.
And then you also have the injuries kind of up the middle with Nakobe Dean and Reed Blankenship getting banged up as starters that were really looking to prove themselves in the first place to be what you thought they could be based off some promising flashes.
Yeah.
So all that adds up to Philly for 3. Here's where things get interesting. The 4 spot. I got a 2-0 team here.
I don't.
You don't.
You have the Saints, don't you?
I do have the New Orleans Saints. I moved them. They were originally 5. Then they kind of snuck by in week 1. Eked out a 1-point win. Then they come back the following week, and the defense just is playing really well. So I'm giving credit where credit's due for how well that defense is playing New Orleans. I had them 6 last week. They're up to 4 this week. They're moving up 2 spots.
I had the Saints at 5.
Okay.
So we're not far off there. But like the drop off is big, right? Can we just acknowledge that right here?
Yes.
Carr certainly not settled in yet, right? I think that's fair to this point. The running back situation is going to be really weird now with Jamal's hurt. Yeah, it's Tony James, and I don't know. Their guard play hasn't been good. Penning hasn't been good to this point. Defensively, I love what they're doing, man. Demario Davis, just one of my favorite players in the league. He's been for a while, and I feel like maybe people finally are knowing this. So I'm enjoying that. I love what they have on defense, but I think offensively they need to find themselves. Hasn't cost them yet, right? There's to be understood. Derek Carr, new situation. Some of your key pieces have not been available for you. I understand them being at 4. I have them at 5, so it's close, but the drop off from 3 to 4 feels so big to me.
There's going to be a gut check for New Orleans too, because they're in Green Bay, and then they host the Bucs, which is a tough defense for that.
Yeah,
take the under on that game, right?
Yeah.
And then at New England. So you get some tough defenses for that offense. There were a couple big plays in the second half of the game in week 2, which kind of felt like maybe we can build on. One to Shaheed. They hit one to Chris Olave.
Shaheed makes plays, bro. 22 out there. I like him.
Fun player. He's fun.
I like him. So I wonder if my 4 is your 5.
It's not. I'm guessing you have the Green Bay Packers still. You have the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, Seattle.
Okay.
I'm back in, baby. Let me down big time in week 1. You kind of got romped by the Rams, right? It's like, oh no, like maybe this is not a thing. But come on, man, showing some resiliency week over week. Finally, like they kind of had their swagger back against the Lions. Let's go, putting them back in the 4 spot.
How concerned are you with the defensive performance, though?
I've been concerned about Seattle's defense for the last year as well. I mean, I'm very concerned about it, especially with some injuries.
I'm just saying 31st in yards and 29th in points through 2 weeks.
I get it.
61 points allowed.
But I feel like and I was thinking to myself, if Seattle and New Orleans played at a neutral site, which team do I think would win? I felt like Seattle would. And that's what made me separate it. At least right now.
So I have Seattle at 6. I'm giving some flowers to a team that I already owe an apology to, and it's the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, wow. You're going to be good friends with the Falcons and the Titans fans, and they're going to hate me.
Well, this Arthur Smith ball, man.
Bijan, man. You saw Bijan have those carries just twitching people out of his minds, and you're like, put him in the top 5.
2 weeks now, man.
Can't throw the football whatsoever.
You're right. They can't. And if they ran the ball every time with Bijan Robinson and didn't waste half their carries, they wouldn't have to.
We'll see, man.
They wouldn't have to. Look, defense, respect the way the defense plays. Jesse Bates has been a home run acquisition for them. Opportunistic, winning that game against Green Bay, against a team that I think is, in spite of the change at quarterback with Jordan Love, I think they're a more multifaceted team. Now, they caught Green Bay on a break without Bakhtiari, Jenkins, Watkins, Aaron Jones. Like,
I didn't have to say it. That's where I was going to go, but you brought it up.
What does the win column say?
Yeah, I get it. They got 2 wins. Let's play them all and see what happens.
We're not going to apologize for wins, right? That's what Mike Tomlin said after Monday Night Football, with perhaps the ugliest fourth quarter and a fourth quarter comeback in the history of mankind in the entire game of football.
I feel like Mike Tomlin said that a few times over the years.
Yeah, well, he's not wrong, right? At the end of the day, you lace him up, and there's going to be a game that comes down the stretch where Atlanta's going to be missing some critical guys. And, I mean, they were already without Cordarrelle Patterson as, like, probably the third most used weapon in the offense, behind Algier and Bijan Robinson, in spite of spending top 10 picks on those other guys that they just don't want to use. Or Ritter's got a little gamerness to him, so I appreciate what they've done. The fact that they're 2-0, and I had them 8 last week. I'm giving them an acknowledgement as a team that found a way to pull off a tough win.
All right, so I have it 49ers, Cowboys, Eagles, Seahawks, Saints. You have it
Cowboys, 49ers, Eagles, Saints, Falcons, top 5.
All right, we got the rest of the NFC to get to here in just a moment. But first, our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. So whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Vinny has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Weeks. Chiefs' second-year running back Isaiah Pacheco hasn't delivered much to his fantasy football managers yet this season, but be sure to roll him out of the garage for plenty of production on the ground, cleaning up against a bad Bears defense overall in Week 3. Pacheco should break some chunk runs with an excellent shot to score to provide punctuation in a home blowout. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Okay, Joe. 6th spot is where I have Seattle. So we've already kind of talked about that team. The question that I have is obviously the defensive performance. Now, you caught McVay with 4 months, 8 months, 7 months.
I heard about that last year in Week 1, but, you know.
Yeah. No comment?
I heard about it last year, Week 1. 31-10 win, I seem to remember.
Well, the Buffalo Bills are not the Seattle Seahawks. And then Seattle against Detroit, in Detroit, home opener, Ben Johnson, high-powered. Like, I get it. But I want to see the switch flip a little bit before I put him back in the stratosphere of where I originally had him, because I originally, when we did this for Week 1, I had Seattle at 4 just like you did. So we were of the same mind. I just want to see the defense kind of get its footing a little bit.
All right, so we're here for the number 6 spot. And didn't you already reveal who your 6 is?
I just did. Seattle, that's right. 6 for me is Detroit. Okay. Losing to Seattle, so of course I have Seattle ahead of them, but winning that game against Kansas City, haven't forgotten about it. It's more about what I think the Lions can be moving forward and less about what the teams that I have below them have shown me to this point. I hope that makes sense. And I could be wrong about all of this for sure. But the Lions have the highest quality win, probably of any team in the NFC, going and winning in Kansas City. I know that there were some circumstances there, but I'm still in. I'm still in. Number 6 for me. Okay. So 7 and 8 for me, and I'm packaging them both because Detroit's in this group. Last week, I had Green Bay at 4 and Detroit at 5. Both teams lost. Keeping the same synergy, especially like if Bakhtiari and Aaron Jones and Christian Watson go, I would still pick Green Bay right now to win a head-to-head game. So because of that, I have Green Bay at 7 and Detroit at 8. And they are like coin toss. Now, if you're accounting for the health on game day and you ask me on game day if they were playing each other, my answer would probably be dependent on how complete Green Bay is. Because I think Green Bay does have the ability. Look, a little worried about A.J. Dillon. I kind of get why maybe that team was sniffing around Jonathan Taylor a little bit. A.J. Dillon does not look great thus far this season, but with Aaron Jones, a complete offensive line, I think the passing game, I think they're just a little bit more well-rounded from a personnel standpoint offensively than what Detroit is, and I like their defense better too.
So my 7, 8, and 8 are two teams we've already discussed. 7 is Green Bay for me. 8 is Atlanta. And so,
okay. So
I'm just
have the same teams in the top
hey,
8.
Listen, Atlanta rose 4 spots for me, right? So they're gaining my respect, but I'm sorry if I'm not crowning them yet. That's where I'll say it there. I mean, Green Bay had a chance to win that game, right? The guy didn't catch. It was Toure drops the pass. We'll see.
On 4th down.
Yeah, we'll see. Squeaking by Carolina, who looks like a disaster. They need 3 turnovers to win that tight game, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
I'm not there yet.
I get it.
I love Bijan. I do.
They're up 4 spots. So I mean, there's for you from last week. So that's credit where credit's due.
So now we have the same 8 teams in the top 8, just different order, right?
Right. And no team is in the same spot for both of us 4 through 8.
Correct.
Which is a testament to the chaos that is the Wild Wild West of the NFC. I would be surprised if we don't have the same 2 teams to finish the top 10.
Ooh, I'll take that bet. I don't think we do.
One of them is the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, so far so good. I have them at number 9.
I have them at number 10.
Okay.
Why don't you tell me who your number 9 team is or your number 10 team is?
My 10 team is Tampa.
My 9 team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, so you knew and I didn't. So
we didn't compare notes though, so I didn't know. It was just a gut feeling.
Both teams exceeding my expectations to this point. Both quarterbacks playing a lot better than anticipated, especially Baker Mayfield, right? I mean,
yes,
playing good ball through 2 weeks. Mike Evans looking like Mike Evans, being able to overcome any offensive line concerns to this point that we thought they would have. Obviously, defensively, we expected them to have quite the punch there, and they played 2 games and won them both, so give them credit.
Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves with the offensive line concerns because they played Minnesota and Chicago.
Which is terrible defensive lines.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, congrats, Tampa. On Monday night, you play Philadelphia. We'll find out just about the offensive line in about 5 days. Yeah. We'll have a little bit more clarity on what that offensive line situation is like. But I agree with you as far as the play of Baker Mayfield's been awesome. 70% of his passes he's completing, only taking 1 sack. Exciting. I think that this has been good personnel to mesh with what Baker wants to do as a passer. So I think there's some stuff that's in line here that Tampa can get pretty excited about. And then obviously they have the defensive talent that they do as well, which is going to keep them in games. And kind of it's the inverse for LA, where you've seen McVay has kind of lifted some stuff from his buddies across the league to maximize. Tutu Atwell's been like a really productive player through the first 2 weeks. Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford.
Some of us expected Puka Nacua to do this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine being surprised Puka Nacua is balling out. And all of this effectively with the ghost of a run game at their disposal.
A complete ghost. Kyron Williams, Tutu Atwell, and Puka Nacua. Come on. Are we serious?
At least it's about not Ben Skoranek.
Dude, but that says so much about, I mean, those aren't terrible football players, but those aren't guys that you'd expect to be feature components at this point for a McVay offense, but they're balling.
Stafford and McVay.
Balling,
it's the scheme, and they're really doing a nice job. And so I think LA's offense, especially in comparison to the rest of the teams that are in the bottom 6, LA's offense and Tampa's defense, I think, are units you can hang your hat on and feel like you're going to be really competitive. And you're playing the teams below you in the power rankings. I think it gives you a really good chance to win the game.
All right, so I have 6 Lions, 7 Packers, 8 Falcons, 9 Rams, 10 Buccaneers.
I have 6 Seahawks, 7 Packers, which we have in the same spot, 8 Lions, 9 Buccaneers, 10 Los Angeles Rams.
All right, the bottom part of this conference is coming up here in just a moment. But first, I need to tell you about PrizePicks. You got to check out PrizePicks. It's the funnest, easiest, fastest way to play daily fantasy sports. The format is incredible. It's not you versus thousands of other players, including pros, including sharks. It's you against the numbers. All you do is you select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on their projected stats. you place your entry. That's it. Doesn't take long. You can make your picks in under a minute. And when you win, the withdrawals are super easy and super quick. They even have Apple Pay on there for an opportunity to withdraw. Love watching football. Love it even more when I get a chance to have a PrizePicks entry going into games. It just makes it that much more exciting. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use our promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Folks, snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's it. Just a $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So tomorrow when Kyle and I are back and we're picking all the games, you can go to FanDuel, you can listen to our analysis, see what you like, and you can put down some bets on maybe some of these spreads that you enjoy. And check out the player props. Those are so fun. I always enjoy those so much. So check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn.
The bottom six, Joe. This is... I took the low-hanging fruit with 11. I don't know about you.
You put the 2-0 team at number 11, didn't you?
I did. Now, I had them 15 last week, but they played the team that was ranked 16 and snuck out a win. I don't know. It was 21-3, 18-point comeback win against the Denver Broncos. And look, Denver's, you go back to week 1, we both had Denver ranked 12th in the AFC. So you acknowledge the quality of the win, but in the same way as me putting Atlanta at 5 to keep the same energy of like, the win column's the win column. I think there's enough there, and Bieniemy's doing enough with the offensive scheme that I want to give them their flowers a little bit here.
Yeah.
So I move them up to 11.
I got the Commanders there as well. Same thought process. Chase Young back, sack and a half. They have 10 sacks through 2 games, so good for them.
Yeah.
7 of them coming against Denver. The offensive line has played a lot better than anticipated to this point, right? I think that's been a bright spot for them. Obviously, Sam Howell not playing bad. Eric Bieniemy's got him going a little bit right now. He's certainly got some confidence. Big test. They host the Bills on Sunday. So we'll find out a little bit more about Washington, but 2 wins to start the year. Again, tight wins against Arizona and Denver, but 2 wins to start the year.
So then we have the next 5 teams. I put the team with the most talent at 12.
Okay.
Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. I don't have Minnesota at 12.
Oh, how do you not have the Minnesota Vikings at 12? Go ahead.
The next 2 are the Giants and Vikings. Okay. I think that's, I would be surprised if you didn't have it in that.
I had the New York Giants at 13. Yes.
Yeah. So I have it Vikings and then Giants and Vikings. I don't know, man. Both the overachieving teams of 2022.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
But they went different ways, right? Minnesota was kind of realistic about it and reset a little bit, and the Giants kind of just leaned into what they had going on. I'm concerned about them both. Minnesota just defensively, Flores is going to give them their best chance, I think, but like sometimes they
don't have the horsepower.
Yeah, you got to have dudes, right? You got to have players, and right now that defensive line, I mean, I feel like teams are going to run it down their throat until they prove that they can't, and then I don't really think they have the secondary to match up with a lot of teams. So I'm concerned about him. I like Kirk. I mean, respect him. I like the Jordan Addison, what he's shown, that touchdown he had. I think a lot of people tweeted it out against Philly. It's like, oh, that was the Pittsburgh version of Jordan Addison. And That was really fun. And we know what Justin Jefferson is like. That offense is going to give him a chance. It's interesting. They brought in Dalton Risner. Maybe they've seen enough of Ed Ingram there at guard.
I would imagine you have seen enough of Ed Ingram.
Yeah. So like, I have optimism there, but I don't know. Like, is it weird to think that maybe the Giants have a more complete team despite not really loving what they have? That's kind of what I'm leaning into.
Okay. I see what you did here. I don't agree with it, but I see what you did here. I would take the Giants' defensive personnel over Minnesota's defensive personnel. I would comfortably take Minnesota's. And I asked myself, what is more sustainable? Minnesota turned it over 7 times in 2 games. They're -6 turnover differential.
And 4 of them were fumbles against the Eagles. Kirk didn't even throw a pick. They turned it over 4 times.
Kirk has 1 pick in 2 games, and they have 7 turnovers.
That's so corny.
It's brutal.
That's so corny, dude.
So that for me is, it's like, okay, I think they comfortably have better offensive personnel. They have better offensive line. They have the most elite player in Justin Jefferson. They got a better quarterback. I would just go Minnesota over the 2. Now, I don't think it gets particularly better for Minnesota because they have Chargers at Carolina. Okay. Kansas City at Chicago. Okay. San Francisco at Green Bay at Atlanta. Gets you through week 9. This is probably a 6-loss team.
I don't know if this is a good process or not also, but I had the Giants above Minnesota thinking about the playoff game as well.
Oh, you got to let that go now.
I'm just looking for reasons. I'm just looking for reasons, right? But
Andrew Thomas dingo last week. Saquon Barkley ankle sprain, going to miss a little bit of time.
Not great.
They're on the rocks. And oh, by the way, you got San Francisco tomorrow night in San Francisco.
That don't look good, man.
No. So anyway, here's Wonderwall. 14 out of the Carolina Panthers.
Yep. We talk about a banged up football team, right?
Yeah.
J.C. Horn's on the shelf. Shaq Thompson's out for the season.
Thompson,
both guards, right? Brady Christensen's
Palmer.
out for the year. But we know Corbett, when's he coming back? Christmas time?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Those are like core veterans of this operation.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like their offense is just not there right now. They're not playing good football.
They don't have any dynamic weapons that's not Miles Sanders, and they don't have the complete offensive line to actually block for him anyway.
Dude, not good. It's just not. It doesn't look good to me.
And
defensively, it looks pretty good.
Bryce is figuring out that defenders in the NFL are faster and stronger and longer than. I know you play in the SEC, but it's still different.
What did I say about him? I said he held onto the football for over 3 seconds at Alabama. I said that cannot work in the NFL. And everybody's talking about processing pre-snap. This guy's just an elite talent in that regard. What are we talking about? What evidence do you have of that so far this season? But also, he held on the ball for over 3 seconds at Alabama. It's showing up right now. Like these concerns were right there in the evaluation.
And for you to wean him off of this, you need early separators. You need the same conversation that happened with the Miami Dolphins and Tua when he first got there, and he's throwing to Devontae Parker and Preston Williams and all these slugs outside. Like, it's a 1-for-1 conversation.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Carolina, you want your blueprint? Look at the kinds of players that Miami got, because you have to break Bryce. Bryce was much more prone of this, he was much more prone to do this than Tua was with the extended plays and running around and making stuff happen, because he is a better athlete than Tua.
Who's the Dolphins? Who's the McDaniel disciple, right? Who's the guy that's going to get hired away from this staff, right? It's going to happen, right?
Probably Bevel.
Really?
Passing game coordinator, quarterbacks coach. Frank Smith's got an offensive line background. He's the OC.
You know that's coming, right? That's got to happen. And I didn't think about it until this moment, but I'm like, you're exactly right. Mm-hmm. They have to go down this path. But they're not on this path. They have Thomas Brown's a McVay disciple, right? I mean,
right. So I don't think it'll be Carolina that does it, but that's the personnel blueprint Carolina's going to have to go to. Is exactly
they're nowhere close, Kyle.
No, they're nowhere close.
Nowhere close. How did you get Waddle and Hill? How do you do that?
Draft Xavier Worthy do they even have the picks?
No, they don't have the picks. They don't have the picks. What's the path?
Trade Brian Burns. Do the Laramie Tunsil thing. Trade Brian Burns.
Okay.
I mean, that's a week's worth of content that you can go.
Yeah,
but that's the issue with Carolina is I'm watching Bryce and him constantly getting out the pocket and moving to his right and not being able to make quick decisions. As good of an anticipator as he may or may not be, nobody's open, so you can't get the ball out. I'm sure you saw the stat. Like, he's like at the top of the charts for a percentage of throws that are accurate throws but the percentage of throws that are like considered open throws in the NFL, like the Panthers are dead last.
The big ticket can't be T. Higgins here, right? That's my concern.
T. Higgins?
Yeah. That's going to be their big ticket.
That's a different stylistic player than what I would pursue.
Mm.
You know who'd be great in that offense is DJ Moore. I don't want to rub salt in the wound, but
brother, I'm not even a Panthers fan, and that hit me bad. Woo! Hopefully, Panthers fans didn't make it this far into the episode. 15-16 Bears Cardinals. The only reason the Bears aren't 16 is because the Cardinals exist.
Correct. And the Cardinals are openly doing the thing. That's why the Bears aren't last.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to say? The things are not going well in Chicago. The offense looks terrible. Darnell Wright's not handling speed, which surprise. Defensively is terrible.
All you had to do is watch one rep of tape that wasn't Will Anderson and a 4-eye. to know that it was a concern.
Injuries as well to the offensive line. Braxton, who's the left tackle? Braxton Jones. Yeah. He's not playing till the standard he set last year. Up. Yeah, none of that helps. And then, I mean, I don't know. I think defensive football starts up front with your D-line, and they had an unserious defensive line going into the season. So consider me unsurprised. Cardinals, you're dumpster fire. You're 16.
Correct. So I have Cowboys, 49ers, Eagles, Saints, Falcons, top 5. Seahawks, Packers, Lions, Bucks, Rams, next 5. Commanders, Vikings, Giants, Panthers, Bears, Cardinals to close.
49ers, Cowboys, Eagles, Seahawks, Saints, my top 5. Next 5 are Lions, Packers, Falcons, Rams, Bucks. Then I go Commanders, Giants, Vikings, Panthers, Bears, Cardinals.
We will see what week 3 brings. We have an all NFC matchup on Thursday Night Football. We have a match of undefeateds on Monday Night Football in the NFC. So a little bit more clarity coming for teams trying to jostle for position. We're excited to see what that brings. We'll make all our picks tomorrow on the show. I'm Kyle Krabs. He's Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We appreciate you guys checking out Locked On NFL Scouting. Make it a great rest of your hump day. We'll be back. Talk to y'all again tomorrow. Peace.